Market Channel.
The markets plunged to a 7-month low on weak Asian cues. The Sensex loses over 1.5% across the board, selling. Heavy index heavyweights like Reliance Industries and SBI bear the maximum brunt, while metals see a sharp sell-off. Commodities melt on concerns that Washington may withdraw the stimulus measures. Gold slides to a new 7-month low, while copper and silver as well as crude take big knocks. The government promises to speed up reforms as the budget session kicks off. President Pranab Mukherjee says that high inflation is a big concern along with slowing growth. In his joint address to the parliament, he says the government will crack down on corruption and usher in transparency. AirAsia begins the groundwork for the proposed joint venture with the Tatas. The Malaysian carrier's CEO, Tony Fernandes, will visit India in the first week of March and meet industry regulators and top government officials for an early takeoff. ONGC may be close to acquiring Videocom's 10% stake in the Mozambique gas block for around $3 to $4 billion. The Videocom stock gained over 4% in trade despite a broad-based sell-off. Good evening, you're tuned into Business Day right here on ET Now. I'm Avan Dabash. Let's get in the check as to what happened on the equity markets today. And it was absolute carnage on Dalal Street as the market snapped the 3-day rally to end at the lowest level in 2013, largely on account of the global sell-off in equities, commodities, as well as currencies. So no respite for the Nifty, which cracked almost 100 points, as well as the Sensex, which was off by 300 points on huge volumes. So the Nifty witnessed its biggest percentage drop since July 26th at 58.52. For the broader markets also, it was a similar picture, so they mirror the kind of sentiment that you witnessed for the frontliners. It was off by 110 points for the mid-cap index, the small-cap index down by 1.7%. Almost all your sectoral indices were in the limelight on the downside, led by the metals index. The banking witnessed no respite whatsoever. Real estate cracked in the session. It was only consumer durables which was up, albeit marginally. Index losers came in the form of the metal counters, which cracked on account of the global sell-off that you've seen. So the likes of a JSPL was down by 4%, Tata Steel, Sesa, and apart from that, Reliance Infrastructure on the losing list. Results for today, well, ABB put out a disappointing quarter. The profits came in at 16.7 crore rupees. That's way lower than what the street was expecting, down 74% on a year-on-year basis. The net sales were down by 6.7% at 2,057 crore rupees. The other income came at 3 crores. And remember, for the fourth quarter, there have been no big orders for ABB, and the order backlog was at 8,672 crores as of December 31st. So it plunged to its 2-year low this time around, on margins also shrinking on the back of disappointed results, this coming in quarter after quarter. Gujarat Pipavav, that also declared its numbers today. You had the profits which came in at 36 crores. That's higher by 33% on a year-on-year basis. The top line growth was higher marginally only by 3.8% at 108 crore rupees. Some stocks in focus today. Shriram Transport was damaged in the session. Yesterday, you had the news that TPG will be selling shares worth $300 million, and they will be sold in the price range of 715 to 755. Those block deals did take place today. And remember, TPG owns a 20% stake in Shriram Transport, and Goldman was the sole broker to that deal. Kingfisher Airlines did fairly well today, as we understand that the money from the Diageo deal will perhaps be used in order to resurrect Kingfisher Airlines. The counter was locked in upper circuit. High beta plummeted today, so Jayaprakash Associates was down 3%. Ultratech, in fact, called off the talks to buy part of their cement unit, and that was a large part of the reason as to why the counter was down and out. From autos, you had Maruti Suzuki. That counter was damaged because Manesar as well as the Gurgaon plants will be shut as they declared a holiday, according to sources. SKS Microfinance in the limelight on the downside as the IRDA imposed a fine of 50 lakh rupees on the counter, saying that SKS in fact has collected over 100% higher premium from the clients, and they will remit the penalty within the next 15 days. Some of the counters which lit up the screen were really few and far between. You had only the defensives which held up their head high, so the likes of Cipla and Sun Pharmaceuticals saw a very marginal gain today. Well, let's find out what's the road ahead for the Indian economy, what the markets are expecting from Budget 2013. Here are a few expert market voices.
We're looking for another 75 basis points over the course, spread over the course of the next 12 months. Unless we see a major change of policy at the budget or major plans of execution, I would be very surprised if India does not get downgraded in 6 months after that.
I think fiscal consolidation is something which India has to do. And unfortunately, it will also result in some amount of impact as far as growth is concerned. What we can hope for is two things. Crude prices come down, so that gives us some breathing space on the current account side, and hopefully capital flows continue, which results in some of the deficit which we have in the current account side getting offset because of strong capital flows. I mean, that's only hope over there. Unfortunately, you don't really have much of a solution.
But it wasn't just isolated to the equity markets. It was carnage across the commodities, as well as dissent over the Fed's bond buying program spooked that universe. Gold, in fact, came under heavy selling pressure, while crude oil and base metals traded weak. Let's get in Manisha Gupta to give us a sense of all the action in the commodities space. Manisha.
Well, it's a second straight day of declines coming in for the commodities. The data from the Eurozone has been on the weaker side. China is talking about curbing their housing data. And apart from that, you also have seen the FOMC minutes. That has been the latest trigger that has led to decline coming in for the commodities. The FOMC is debating on the risks and benefits of the further easing of the monetary policy. And that really has led to worries into the market. Starting with the precious metals then, and 6.5% decline coming in for this year now for gold and silver prices. Silver actually has turned around negative much faster than what gold has done. Same is the case with the Indian markets as well. 7-month lows coming in for gold prices here as well. If you take a look at the crude prices, second straight day when you have seen 2% of a decline coming in for this one as well. The biggest slide in 3 months is what you are seeing in this space too. Same is the case with the base metals also. Nickel is leading the decline for all of those base metal prices. Down nearly 8% now in the previous 1 week itself is how the nickel prices are trading. But if you go out on the street and talk to analysts, they are expecting a further decline continuing in case of the precious metal space. A turnaround actually could come in case of silver, nickel and copper. These are the three things that the markets are advising on buying on these dips now.
Thanks for that, Manisha. Well, today you had the budget session of the Parliament which kicked off, and President Pranab Mukherjee highlights the UPA government roadmap for recovery before the Parliament today. Now, he remained optimistic on the economic outlook for the next fiscal, although he did maintain that inflation remains a concern despite cooling off from the recent highs. Let's hear him out.
I hope this session will be productive and useful. Inflation is easing gradually, but is still a problem. There has been a moderation in core inflation and recovery in growth is likely. My government has recently introduced important official amendments to the Land Acquisition, Rehabilitation and Resettlement Bill. I am confident that the law will be enacted.
Montek Singh Ahluwalia, the Deputy Chairman of the Planning Commission, responded to that, saying that attaining a high growth level isn't enough, but that inclusive growth should not only provide more jobs, but also good quality jobs. Let's hear what he had to say.
When we say we need rapid and inclusive growth, we really mean a growth that's going to produce a very broad spread, A, of jobs, and B, of employment opportunity. Merely talking about employment opportunities without talking about quality doesn't actually make much sense. The approach to inclusive growth is that it is going to lead to faster growth, so it's going to lead to a much better spread of employment opportunities.
After the announcement of its entry into India with Tata Sons, AirAsia has already a blueprint in place for its Indian operations. The Malaysian carrier's CEO, Tony Fernandes, will visit India in the first week of March and meet industry regulators and top government officials for an early takeoff. Sumit Chaturvedi joins in with the latest details. Sumit.
Well, a day after the Big Bang announcement of AirAsia and Tata's joint venture entry into Indian aviation space, the company has announced plans for India as well. Well, AirAsia has already selected a management team for India, and the name of a CEO will be announced in 2 to 3 weeks. Well, the company will invest $30 to $60 million in the airline, which will take off in Q4 of this year. Well, company says it is ready to take off as soon as it gets all regulatory approvals. Well, the CEO Tony Fernandes will visit India in first week of March to meet key ministries and regulators as well. What we also know is that the board members the board members in airline, the majority of board members will be Indian, and the ratio of foreigners to Indians will be 4:5. The USP of airline is going to be the low airfares. Company is saying that it will start operations and focus on southwest India, and then will later on go to the other parts of India as well. So this is the kind of plan which company is starting, and after getting all approvals, company hopes to start operations in Q4 of this year, where company will be based in Chennai.
Thanks very much, Sumit, for giving us all of those details. Moving on then, Videocon Industries rallied today in a falling market on reports that ONGC is in talks to buy its 10% stake in the Mozambique gas field. The management spoke with us and clarified that they are going to sell the stake for about $2 billion. Let's hear out Venugopal Dhoot.
We have got a big portfolio. Indonesian portfolio is also very big. Brazil portfolio is very big. So why not to sell at least 10 to 15% of our portfolio, so that we will have some cash there, and that is the reason our board of directors has decided that to sell Mozambique. ONGC might be one of them. They must be discussing with them. They are not discussing with them directly. Now you say about the price. I give you the price idea also. You see that another company, Co Energy, US listed company, had 8.5%, and they could sell it at $2.2 billion.
The Enforcement Directorate will attach over 95 acres of land belonging to Aurobindo Pharma. The management, however, has clarified that the operations will not be impacted due to the ED's order. Let's get in Yatin Mota, who joins in with the latest details. Yatin.
Well, we had the Aurobindo Pharma shares clearly tank almost 7% on an intraday basis in trade today, on the back of the news that the Enforcement Directorate will possibly attach 96 acres of company subsidiaries land, as well as 3 crores in terms of fixed deposits by Aurobindo Pharma. Now, this is quite important because this case of Enforcement Directorate relates to the disproportionate asset case of Jagan Mohan Reddy, who is the Andhra Pradesh politician, and possibly there were links as far as the disproportionate assets case was concerned in terms of kickbacks that were received by Jagmohan from Aurobindo Pharma, and that is why the Enforcement Directorate has attached the properties of the company. But if you talk about the clarification which came in late trading session, we had the company which clearly clarified that the company is in process of appealing with the appellate tribunal, which will possibly hear and look at the attachment which is done by the Enforcement Directorate. And also the company clarified that with the attached assets of the subsidiary in terms of land and fixed deposit, this will not have a substantial impact as far as the operations are concerned. But there was no respite after that clarification in terms of stock price. So clearly this will be the event to watch out for as to how company takes the legal proceedings forward. And it will be very interesting to know as to what is the outcome of the legal proceedings because the times are tough as far as the entire Jagan Mohan Reddy case is concerned in terms of disproportionate assets. We have companies like Ramki Infratech as well as Aurobindo Pharma which have been stuck as far as this case is concerned. So this will be important development to watch out for.
It certainly will. Thanks very much, Yatin, for giving us those details. And as Yatin pointed out, the stock also hammered in trade today. But moving on then, a week from now, we will have the big budget. And here are some of the expectations. We understand that the finance minister is likely to announce the food security bill, which experts believe will be a political game changer for the UPA. Sources tell ET Now that an allocation of 3,000 crores to 5,000 crores is likely to be made in the budget. There is no final decision on the legal entitlement of grain yet, and this bill is likely to impact 65% of the total population. States will individually decide on the beneficiaries of the food bill. Okay, with that, we wrap it up right here on Business Day. Thanks so much for watching. Keep it with ET Now for all the latest news and updates.